How's it going, family? The powerful I am. 50 the Mystic. Today we're delving a bit deep. We're getting in closer to the moment where Jacob gets a new identity. But today we're covering Genesis 32, verse 27. And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. This is one of the most symbolically charged moments in Jacob's transformation. The mysterious being's question, What is your name? Represents the moment when a person is forced to confront who they have been. A name symbolizes identity, patterns, beliefs, emotional history, and the story a person has lived up to this point. Asking Jacob to declare his name is asking him to acknowledge the identity that shaped his entire life. It is the moment where the old self must be spoken aloud before the new self can emerge. Jacob responding with Jacob symbolizes admission and self-recognition. His name means heel holder, supplanter, and one who gains through struggle. Jacob is acknowledging that his whole life has been defined by striving, chasing approval, manipulating circumstances, and battling for his place in the world. Think of the time he even deceived his father to get the blessing over Esau. He's always been battling for his place in the world. This confession is not negative, it is honest. Transformation always begins with truth. You cannot become who you are meant to be until you confront who you have been, which means being very honest with yourself. This verse represents the moment every person must face during spiritual or emotional evolution. The moment when you must speak the truth of your patterns, your wounds, your fears, and your survival strategies. What is your name? Symbolizes the question, life, God, or the ancestors ask you when it is time to stop hiding behind roles and masks. It is the moment of self-revelation. Jacob stands between two worlds now, the world of who he used to be and the world of who he is becoming. By saying his name, he releases ownership of the old identity. This prepares the way for transformation. This verse shows that elevation begins with honesty and rebirth begins with acknowledging what must be left behind. It is beautiful because it represents a major psychological turning point within Jacob's internal structure itself. When the mysterious being asks, What is your name? The question acts as a trigger for self-examination. In psychological terms, this is the moment when the conscious mind is confronted with its core identity narrative. Every person carries a story about who they are, shaped by childhood experiences, emotional wounds, successes, failures, and learned patterns. This identity story is stored deep within neural pathways, shaping behavior and perception. Most of us move through life unconsciously shaped by the things that have been embedded in our minds, by society, by our parents, by doctrines. The question forces Jacob to confront this internal narrative directly. Jacob answering Jacob reflects the act of conscious acknowledgement. Naming one's identity is the beginning of transformation. The name Jacob carries meanings of striving, grasping, and struggling for position. These traits reflect the deeper emotional patterns that have governed Jacob's life. He has lived in survival mode. He has been shaped by fear of loss, competition, and the need to prove himself. This identity has become a neurological loop, reinforced through years of behavior. The question represents the brain's confrontation between the old neural structure and the emerging one. Before new neural pathways can be formed, the existing pattern must be named and brought into conscious awareness. This is similar to therapeutic processes where the first step of change is naming the belief or pattern that has governed your life. When Jacob says his name, he is verbalizing the structure that has defined him. This act activates the prefrontal cortex, allowing emotional patterns stored in the limbic system to become available for restructuring. This verse symbolizes the moment when the mind becomes ready for identity reformation. The question surfaces subconscious content in itself. The answer reveals self-honesty. Together there is created the psychological opening needed for transformation. And overall, it reflects a universal pattern found throughout nature and cosmic law. When the mysterious being asked Jacob, "What is your name?" emerged the law of self-recognition that precedes transformation. In nature, nothing changes form without first acknowledging its current state. A seed must recognize its containment before it cracks open. A river must recognize blockage before it carves a new path. A tree must sense winter before preparing for spring. Nature always demands alignment with truth before evolution takes place. The question symbolizes the cosmic law that identity must be confronted before destiny can shift. Throughout creation, cycles of transformation follow a pattern. First, recognition, then disruption, then renewal. Jacob's admission of his name represents the recognition stage. His name symbolizes the old identity shaped by struggle, competition, and survival. In cosmic terms, he is acknowledging the frequency he has been operating in. You cannot shift energy you refuse to acknowledge. This moment aligns Jacob with the law of truth. The question also reflects the principle of resonance. The universe responds to identity. What you call yourself consciously or unconsciously becomes the vibration that shapes your experiences in life. Jacob saying his name is symbolic of revealing the frequency he has been operating under. Cosmic law requires this transparency before it can elevate him into a new frequency. This moment also represents the law of cycles. Every major transformation, whether in nature or in the human spirit, begins with a moment of honest reflection. Are you able to actually be honest with yourself during this moment of introspection? When the sun rises, it reveals everything the night hid. When seasons shift, nature does not hide its changes. Likewise, Jacob cannot hide. The question exposes him that he may be renewed. This verse shows that evolution requires self-honesty, and cosmic elevation begins with acknowledging the identity that is ready to be shared. And it speaks directly to the journey of personal growth and healing itself. When the mysterious being asks, "Jacob, what is your name?" it reflects the moment when life, God, or your inner truth forces you to confront who you have been up until this point. You cannot evolve without honesty. Growth begins the moment you stop pretending to be something you are not and acknowledge the identity you have lived. The question symbolizes the invitation to look at your patterns, behaviors, wounds, and choices without excuses or denial. Jacob answering Jacob is a model of radical honesty. His name represents struggle, striving, insecurity, and survival-driven behavior. In your own life, this moment looks like admitting the truth about your fears, your coping mechanisms, your old story, and the identity that has shaped your decisions. Healing begins when you can say, "This is who I have been. This is how I have lived. This is the identity I have carried." You cannot transform what you refuse to acknowledge. This verse teaches that before you can step into your greater identity, you must face your current one. Many people want elevation, but resist the uncomfortable process of self-confrontation. I've seen this a lot. I've seen it in friends. I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in other people in society. There's one thing everyone runs from. It's self-confrontation. They want a new life but refuse to admit the patterns that sabotage them. Jacob teaches the opposite. His honesty becomes the doorway to his transformation into Israel. This means taking responsibility for your story, examining your emotional patterns, acknowledging your limitations, owning your past without letting it define your future. This self-awareness becomes the foundation for growth. It's like growing up poor. If poverty becomes your identity, you perpetuate it into the future. But once you shed that skin of poverty, that's when you break the generational cycle itself. This verse invites you to stop hiding from yourself. It encourages you to answer the difficult question. Once you do, the path to your new identity opens. Honesty becomes the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. Beautiful verse. very jam-packed. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And in the next episode, we'll be going into Genesis 32, verse 28. And he said, "Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. Who as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed." Until next time, family.